In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the iBuySpy portal. Now what we're going to try and do is actually, now that we've have it installed on our local machine, we're going to try and compile and run the iBuySpy portal locally. So we'll be using our own web server, our own database, to see if we can get it to work. And then we can start making changes to it in future videos. Now, this is easier said than done. As you'll see in just a moment, we're going to have to overcome many different challenges as we go to sit out and use this the first time. So we're going to address many of the hurdles that you got to jump over in order to get to the point where you can run the application locally. And then once we get it running locally, I'm going to demonstrate the functionality and the configurability of the application. And one thing that I want to point out is how much you're allowed to do without writing any code. You're able to change the name of the portal. You're able to add tabs. You're able to add roles. You're able to do so much without writing a single line of code. So this is a great starting point, again, for building your own applications. So to get started, all I'm going to do is simply go ahead and try to run it. It's going to ask me where I want to save the solution file. I'm going to go ahead and save it right into the suggested folder, Portal CSVS, on my C drive. After the application is actually compiled, well, we have build errors the first time we tried. So let's take a look at what happens. It says running the project requires setting an initial web page. So what we're going to need to do, first of all, is set an initial web page, and we'll want that to be default.aspx. So we'll select Set a Start Page. So there's another build error. And so the error we get is that we're unable to start debugging on the web server. It'll ask if we want to disable future attempts to debug ASP.NET pages for this project. And we want to select no for that because we do want to debug. So now we need to figure out why or what problem that we're having. The reason for this is because we selected the debug or the start debug, and our debug is turned off in our web.config. So if we open up our web.config and change our compilation debug equals false to true, that should fix that problem. We had more build errors. The reason for this error is because, as you see, the mobile controls, as underlined in blue, does not exist in our namespace. So, for example, when I go to UI and I'll just click the dot to get the drop down for the IntelliSense, you can see that we only have HTML controls and web controls to choose from, but the mobile controls does not exist. And the reason is because if you're like me, you did not install the mobile control toolkit from Microsoft. So we're going to need to do that now. Or we have really two choices here. We can either download and install the mobile toolkit to get the mobile controls so that we don't really have to make any modifications to the code, or we can just comment out all of the references to the mobile controls if we're not going to use that within our website. Now I can show you how to comment it out, but it's pretty simple. All you would need to do is every reference, you can use the task list as a to-do list basically and go through each one, and in the case of C#, just comment everything out. But I'm also going to show you how to actually download the mobile toolkit. What you'll need to do is go to msdn.microsoft.com, as we've done here. Then you'll select the Downloads link. Scroll down till you find Software Development Kits. Scroll down again until you find the Mobile Internet Toolkit. And then you'll want to download. You'll agree to the license agreement. It'll ask if you want to install it. I'm just going to go ahead and click Open. It's probably a good idea at this point to turn off VisualStudio.net, to actually shut it down. I chose not to do that, but we might get in a little trouble here So I spared you from watching the entire toolbar, progress bar. We'll go through Windows Installer. It'll ask us in the wizard if we want to install this. You'll want to read the agreement, select Next, select Complete, select Next, and we'll start installing. It'll say it's detected Visual Studio.NET running on this computer. Please close all instances, so we'll do that. Let me bring Visual Studio.NET up. I'll go ahead and save everything we've done up to this point and then shut down. And then we'll want to select Retry in just a moment. And it goes through several steps of installation. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. So the installation was about a 3 to 5 minute process that I've cut out for brevity's sake. We get to the final screen and I click the Finish button. And I'll go ahead and close our browser and reopen Visual Studio.NET and select the portal. And so we'll try it one more time. I'm going to go ahead now that we've installed the mobile toolkit and rebuild the solution. And it looks like we are all set. It succeeded. Great. So now I'm going to go ahead finally and hit Run. And if we're lucky, we won't have any other disruptions. You'll notice the first time that you try to run it, it's going to do a compile, so it takes a long time, but ultimately it comes up and we're in good shape. First thing that I want to point out is that they didn't ship all of the images with iBuySpy. So you'll notice, like right here, you don't get the actual photo image that you'll see if you actually go to the website. That's okay. The very first time you use the portal, you'll note that you'll need to register. So I'm going to go ahead and select the registration, and we'll pick Scott McFarland. We'll pick some password. Pick Scott. Register and sign in now. Okay, and notice that it says "Welcome, Scott at LearnVisualStudio.net." Also notice that the login went away, but I'm just a guest of the site at this point. I can navigate through the different tabs, which pulls information directly from the database, and I can do a lot of things, but I don't see the admin tab. So what I'll need to do the very first time is actually add myself as an admin. You can't do that from the website. So what we're going to need to do is stop by actually exiting out of our browser and going to our database. We're going to add a new connection. And we'll see Portal. Test the connection. Select OK. Shows up. Very good. We'll take a look at the tables. Whoops, went to the wrong one. Sorry about that. There we go. The one that we're most interested in is the users table. So I'm going to double click that. I'm going to notice that our user ID is 2. That's the first important piece of information. The next thing that I need to do is go to roles and see what role is an administrator. It looks like by default there's only one role, which is an admin. So what I need to do is go to a third table which is user roles. I'm going to take user ID 2 and add them to the role ID 0, which is admin. And now Scott at LearnVisualStudio.net is an admin. Alternatively, I could have just used the guest account, which, as we take a look here, is just guest and guest, and that would get us in as an administrator as well. Now, from here, I could go ahead and delete that guest account just for security purposes. Next, if I want to delete one row, yes, I do. And so now Scott at LearnVisualStudio.net is the only user on the site. So let's run it again. Want to change that. Sorry about that. And password is Scott. Sign in. So now we see the admin tab. Excellent. So from here, what we can do is change the actual title of the site. We'll call this Scott's Portal. And notice when I did that, I selected Apply Changes, and Scott's Portal now comes up right here. I can also take a look at the current tabs that we have and add a new tab. We'll call this Scott's Tab. And we will add an HTML document and call this Hello There. And then select Add to Organized Modules below. And I've repositioned the window so that we can see the entire web page. Notice when I clicked to the Add to Organized Modules below, it went automatically to the content pane in the middle. However, there are basically three panes. There's a small left pane, a small right pane, and then the large pane in the middle, and that's where it defaults to. But say, for example, I want to take this and put it over on the left-hand side. All I do is click this left arrow. And suppose I want to select another one. Let's add a discussion. This topic, and we'll add that as well. And so now we have something in the left and in the middle. And what we can do is edit properties about the discussion pane. Basically, all you can do here is actually change the module name and then select the timeout. Also, any roles I can edit this content. Since we've got only one role, it has all users and just the admins. But we'll make that change in just a moment. So let's now do this. Go to Apply All Changes here at the lower left-hand corner. And so now we're back to the main page of the admin screen. And now you'll see that Scott's tab appears, and I select that, and we have a Hello There area and a Discuss This Topic area. So let's go ahead and change and put some text in Hello There. And I'm just going to put a paragraph tag. Hi, this is just a test. This should be bold. And I'll put a bold tag around this and finish that up. And I can really put anything I wanted to in there as well. I can also add information for the summary for the mobile display of this particular pane of information if I want to, but I'm not going to do that right now. Hi there, this should just be a test. This should be bold. Excellent. Now if I want to add a new thread to my discussion group, it'll pop up another one, another window, and I'm going to type in, this is a test, blah, blah, blah. And I'll scroll down so you can see the submit, and so it gives you the message detail. I'll just need to close this window and select refresh, and all of a sudden you can see this is a test from Scott at LearnVisualStudio.net posted, and you can click it to see it and actually reply to this message if you want to, but we're not going to do that right now. So I think you get the idea that how you can add new tabs like we did here, and then also add information on the tab and manage the information in the tab. The next thing I want to do is add some new roles. To do that, I selected the Add Role, and I'll type in as guest, and select Apply. Scroll down again, and you can see Guest is there. And then I'm going to add one more, which is Member. You have to keep scrolling down back to the same spot. And what I can do at this point then is go in and edit, let's say, the guest, for example. And when I do that, I get another link, which is Change Role Members. I'm going to click on this, and I can select any of the members to add them as guests. Now what this will do will not remove them as an administrator, but will add them as a guest. So they can have multiple roles. They don't have to have just one role. Guests may have certain privileges, or members may have certain privileges that admins don't, or however you want to do it. It's all up to you. You can also remove people from a given role by just clicking the X, and now they've been removed. Save role changes. And I can actually remove roles or edit roles. Pretty much universally within this application, what you'll see is that whenever you have a little pen or pencil, that means you can edit, and whenever you have a little X, that means delete the selected one. So for example, here you'd delete the member if you wanted to click this X right here. If I wanted to delete an entire tab, I would select the tab and then click the X. Or I can move the tabs in certain directions by using these directional keys. I can also manage users this way, where I can add new users. So I can click here, Add New User, and I can type in their information. Let's just call him Steve, and we'll make the password Blues Clues. Put Steve at bluesclues.com, and we'll add him as a guest. And then, I'm sorry, I got to do that. First we applied the password changes, then you need to add user to this role, and when you do that, he becomes a guest. Save user changes when you're all done. And so now we can scroll down and we should see 2 users. So when you get a lot of users, like for example in Learn Visual Studio, we have a pretty large list, and eventually I'm going to actually take this out because it makes it very slow to use the rest of the admin application. But I have the ability to do that because I can get into the source code. So that's a pretty good overview of all the things that you can do. We changed the site settings. We changed the name of the site to Scott's Portal. We added a tab. What we can do is also move the tab to a different position in line. So I moved it before the About the Portal, and you can see it now in ordinal value is before the About the Portal tab. I added security roles and added somebody to a security role, and added a new user and added them to a security role, and removed somebody from a security role. Here you can see the module definitions, and this is when you actually go to add your module, you'll use this Add New Module type functionality. So I'll demonstrate that when we get to that point in our video discussions. The next thing that I want to show you, really the last thing that I want to show you, is when we go to a particular tab, let's say Scott's tab, and go to edit it. Notice that the tab now has authorized roles, and so let's say only admins can see Scott's tab. The other thing that we want to do is take one of these and actually edit it and set its timeout to 3600. Select Apply Changes. And so now we're back to the main area. What I'll do is go into Scott's tab, make a change. This is a change. And if the caching is working correctly, when I click Update, you will not see this change. Why is that? Well, the cache only hits the database now once an hour. So an hour from now, we'll see the new text appear. So that's a demonstration of the caching feature. One last thing that I want to point to is the documentation, which comes with this. When you click it, it has very good documentation on every single user control, every single module, every single page. Just everything you can possibly imagine, and it will actually, let's say for the HTML module, will show you the source code and explain what it does. It gives you dependencies, what stored procedures are used, and so on. This is an extremely helpful resource as you go to make changes. It also outlines some things that you can do differently throughout the entire portal site. So I highly encourage you to read through the entire portal documentation if you're going to make substantial changes to the iBuySpy portal for your own websites. So I hope this video was helpful in so much that you got a good introduction to how to use iBuySpy. Well, let's recap everything that we went through. First of all, after the installation, which is where we began this video, we tried to actually compile and run it the first time. We ran into a number of different challenges that we were able to overcome. We installed the mobile toolkit so that we wouldn't have to make any changes to the source code. We changed the web.config so that we could run it in debug mode. And we also set a start page so that it knew that default.aspx was the correct page to begin with. Then we went through and made modifications to the actual iBuySpy portal simply by using configurations. We didn't make any code changes whatsoever, which is significant. This is why the portal is so neat and so useful as you go to develop your own apps. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's very encouraging to see Microsoft putting these kind of frameworks in our hands so that we can make these modifications and really make us productive very quickly. So thank you very much.